I just wanna be me. Yeah, I just wanna go so crazy. Yeah, I just wanna be a freak. Yeah, I just wanna rise to the top. Yeah, I just wanna go reach the peak. So I've been really well focused on success. Hey, y'all will see. Yeah, you won't see that I will get it. Cause I'm really focused, man. I make it with the rap and I just follow my path. I just follow my passion. To me, this is what's precious. Yeah, in my soul, man, I can feel it. So every single verse, man, I just gotta go and kill it, man. I gotta be the kid. I could be the guy taking you wild. I could be the villain, but that is okay. Lately, I'm painting my path on my way. Yeah, I got no time that I can waste. So I've been sitting in the space. Yeah, making rest every day, man. You know that I go insane. Yeah, I hit you with a bullet to the brain. Let us stop first, cause we going insane. You don't know what I'm gonna do. You don't know what is next. And I'm loving the fact, truly it's making me blessed. Cause I work on my team, no snakes in the grass. And we have a choice in the wind because of the work that we did in the past. Because of the work that we did in the past. When we went to hours, we barely got rest. So I get the realm and we didn't finesse. So I got the feelings that we might be next. Cause when we go in, we win in the match. When we go in, we win in the match. So that's how we do, cause we be the best. We be the best, best. Yeah, we be the best. Whoa. Yeah, we be the best, best. We be the best. Hey, yeah, we be the best, best. Hey, we be the best. Yo, you wanna come a test? Whoa, you want to see we the best. Hey, you don't see that we're the best kid, so I suggest you never really come and test it. But otherwise, I will smack your face like Michael Jordan does with a ball in the basket. Oh damn kid, but you didn't expect it. You never really thought that this could just happen. But now when come on and we pull out with the action, just keep on the feed. Those they don't get it like.
Hello and welcome to the 15 Kings Invitational presented by Great Lakes Gaming. My name is Vincent. I'm joined by Orbital, and we have some amazing EU Valorant here that we are going to be watching all day long. But first, Orbital, how you doing, man? How's it going?
I'm doing okay. I see you're on vacation. Unfortunately, I'm not. I'm stuck in my bedroom, but that's the best place to be whenever casting a little bit, and enjoying our time here at this invitational gamble, winner take all. And that just means you got to get first. You got to be placed at the very top if you want to take home the big prize.
Yeah, 500 euros. That's that big prize you're discussing. And I listen, that ain't no chump change. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's definitely some significant cash in hand for a winning team. So I'm excited for it. I think all the teams that are here are very excited for it. We even have, well, hold on. First of all, before we get to matchup, Orbital, though, let me talk about what we're going to see today. So first of all, we're going to have 3 group stage matches that we're going to go through. You and I will be in for all 3 of those, I believe. Then we've got 2 playoff games here that are happening today. That's going to be the round of 16 and the quarterfinals. Then tomorrow, it's best of 3 semis and then best of 5 grands that are happening as well. So that's kind of the schedule as it appears right now. We got some awesome stuff to bring you, and it's going to be a great time. But opening matchup that we've got, Orbital, here is 15 Kings and Hyperion 5. I think this is going to be an interesting one. You got, of course, the UK side of 15 Kings coming up against a bit of a mixed roster. Basically, Hyperion 5 coming in from everywhere along the EU.
Yeah, and I've been casting NA for a little bit and also watching the NA circuits, and that's been a blast to say. But the EU, I've always taken a look, and it's always a whole different meta. It's the same thing with CS:GO. Oh, yeah. It's the same thing with just about anything, and it's so much fun. This is one of the great things that I love, and also because the European region has their own specific, like, regional regional metas that they play with, because each area kind of comes up with their own style and their own gameplay that they bring to the table. So not only do I expect 15 Kings, of course, the Invitationals, named after them, of course, so they got to show up. There's no way, they're going to let this slide if they start having some, heads up. But I mean, I wouldn't count Hyperion 5, especially against teams that you feel are kind of thrown together, with higher tiers or with teams that have played together for a while. You can always expect some level of, the general meta to slip into their playstyle. But when you get these guys that sometimes first tournament, whatever, team thrown together, they will do whatever it takes. This could be 5 random players playing together, going hardcore with just taking headshots after headshots, or it could be those sneaky rotates, those sneaky moves around the map. And either way, I'm just excited for this first match.
Yeah, I mean, well, speaking of whether or not we're looking at like more puggy rosters or not, I think this 15 Kings roster, fairly new. They haven't had a lot of time they haven't played any officials that I could find. Now, granted, I am not the end all be all when it comes to fighting officials, so take that with the requisite grain of salt. But still, on the Hyperion 5 side of things, they did play in the EU Challengers 2. Unfortunately, went out in the second round of 128 rather, to Easy Monkeys Club, after getting a nice win over Team Asteria. But so they've had some time together, this Hyperion 5 side, and now because it's a best of one, I definitely think we need to be on the lookout for what sort of maps we go to, because the more common the map, I think the better for 15 Kings it is. If we go to like a split or an icebox, that's probably very scary for this 15 Kings side, I would imagine. I mean, again, maybe they've been playing together for like 2-3 weeks and just haven't been in any tournaments, but I don't know. And that's where I'm left thinking like, okay, let's just see where we head map pool wise, because I think it's going to end up being pretty important.
Yeah, and the map poll itself just comes into a whole different aspect as well, especially in a best of one. You are very specifically, you have to more or less pray that out of the 6 maps that we currently have available, I believe Breeze is available to play here, as it has been out for a little bit of time, but you have 6 maps that you can rotate through, and you are very, very worried about the current setup of, hey, what are we going to do? How are we going to play this? And you have to make sure at least one player, which is something that I generally like to see, is in best of 3, you get a good chance to see everyone are kind of just hoping that your one player that has played this map enough, your specialist in this map knows all the routes, is able to kind of pick it off. And that's what we're going to see. Most likely 1 or 2 players from each team is going to step up in a massive way. They should have kind of the overarching strength in that map, really be that front runner for the team. So, if it is going to be that bind like you were talking about, or even that ascent, which I think is also a very fun map to play around on. However, I would like to see an Icebox. I think Icebox is absolutely ridiculous, and for me, it's so much fun. But like I said, at least 1 or 2 members coming out on each team, really showing up and saying, hey, we are going to take this group stage by storm, because out of all the teams, only 4 make it to playoffs.
Yeah, well, and that's the terrifying thing, right? Like you don't have well, I mean, to be fair, 2 out of each group should make it to playoffs, but
yes.
I mean, the whole idea here is that we're gonna by tomorrow cut that down to 4, and that's what's terrifying, right? Because those 4 teams or who are really playing for that 500 euros, and on top of that, I think that what's interesting, you mentioned Breeze being in. I actually didn't even know that, but I double checked, and you're absolutely right. Great call, because the fact that Breeze is in suggests to me that we might see some interesting variety in the map selections here. Obviously, EU is not as married to Ascent. I know in general that as NA is, it's more of an NA trend with the Ascent stuff, but obviously it's much more common because it's easier to play. I think easier to understand is just the way it goes, and so for that reason, I think that we've got a good situation going on where, because Breeze is in, we might not see a lot of Breeze, but I think we're going to see a lot more split, a lot more Icebox to be played because of that map being available. We got a lot of great teams here, though. It's going to be a lot of fun. I mean, I look at the list that we've got over here. We got Team Singularity. They were really close. They played Gambit very closely over in the CIS Challengers qualifier twice, by the way. They had a nice run, the last resort, super solid squad. I don't know about this Rick's GG Lightning squad. The Rick's GG Thunder team is incredible. Is like top 20 in EU right now, but I don't know. Like, I don't know these players on the Lightning team, so I'm kind of excited to see, like, with a name like that, what they bring to the table. But you know what? It's all basically just up in the air at this point. We haven't been able to get any sort of read, I think, of the situations for these teams. And the only reason that we haven't been able to do that is because there's a lot of these teams who are coming in pretty new, pretty like we talked about with 15 Kings, not a lot of officials played on a couple of these rosters. Whilst there's some like Team Singularity that I think have been pretty nuts the last month or so. And so to me it's kind of the old guard meeting the new, especially with all the roster swap ups after challengers too.
Yeah, and agreeing on that point is something that anyone can see, right? This is invitationals are the time to test stuff out. That is something that I am very much in there with. You do want to show off. You do want to, kind of show your piece and say the VCS or any of the CIS regional tournaments that, have the points in the circuit or anything like that. But this is the time to test stuff out. You get invited. You get to show off some fancy plays. You get to pull out some of those the 2-man plays that you might have been practicing or left and right. Maybe test out a new roster member. This guy that's been kicking off in the scrims, right? You want to bring him out. You want to see what he does in a tournament. This is the time to do that at. And so, like you said, a lot of great names coming out here. I also see Big from the German group coming out, which is ranked 27th in Europe, right? This is a squad that I'm excited to see what they can do. But again, any name can topple any name. That's the thing with best of ones. It's you see it in every game across the board. You get one shot. And sometimes some teams take a little bit longer to come online. So, you got the one shot, you got that one map, and that's all you get to say until you move on to the next round. And, upsets can happen a lot more often than we might expect.
Orbital, I come bearing bad news. I hate to break it to you, my friend, but I think you need to refresh your bracket because Big unfortunately did drop out here earlier this morning, or well, it was earlier this afternoon EU time, but morning for me at the very least.
Refreshing.
Yeah. It's unfortunate because you mentioned it, and I actually was fully on board with you. I had a bunch of notes written about them because they're actually awesome. I'm a big fan of Gabi and what he's been able to do, was able to do over in Counter-Strike, but they've come off of some incredible tournament victories. So I'm not sure why they had the need to drop out, but unfortunately not here, which is a little bit sad. But hey, we still got some awesome teams. Though that's a big favorite that's dropped out, I think. I mean, if I was a betting man, which I'm not, but if I was, I would probably have been betting on Big to win this whole thing, which kind of just opens it all up to literally every other team that's here. So I think that whilst we're a bit disappointed, Orbital, I think every team in the bracket is like, oh, thank God, he's not, they're not here anymore. They've got to be loving that.
Oh yeah, they're happy, they're ecstatic, and I think that would have been over in Group H, as we do have A through H. This is 4 teams in each group, and that's kind of where we are taking a look at, right? And so that's why we were talking about, top 2 out of each one are going to move on to play, and in the first 2 rounds of the playoffs, it is single elimination with the best of ones. So it's just hardcore going at it consistently, play after play, and like you said, anything is up in the air. Anyone can make it through. Anyone can take it because you only have 3 rounds that you have to play. Right, you need to at least win 2 matches. That's pretty much a guarantee. If you drop down into a 1-2, there is a situation where the top team 3-0s, and then you have a 1-3 scenario between the other 3 teams, and that's just, of course, that's going to be complicated. We don't want to get into that right now because that is going to send it all the way through. And of course, the opposite could happen as well. You have an 0-3 team, and then you have 1-2. Or 2-1. Sorry, I think that's the other way it can happen across the board, and it's just it gets chaotic. But that's why these are so much fun to play.
Yeah, I don't even understand. This Group D is outrageous. It's just like all of the Polish teams, and it's kind of ridiculous. But I have heard that we do have the map pick finally, Orbital. It is going to be Bind, and it's going to be 15 Kings starting out on the defense. Does that kind of give you any sort of thoughts about what we might be seeing, who we might be seeing, how we might be seeing these teams perform based on just that map and the opening?
Well, it definitely lends itself to a very eye-opening experience, and everyone does love to talk about the fact that that the game itself is very much a defender-sided setup with a lot of the maps and everything like that. But I am a staunch believer in tempo, and one that is on the attacking side first, in my opinion, holds all the power. You are the one that sets the tempo. You are the one that says, how is this game going to be played? At the highest level, yes, the map advantages start coming to play, right? Defender able to rotate in, defender able to kind of play in certain aspects, but who's the one saying how quickly is the round going to kick off? Who is the one that says how are you going to spot someone? And that is going to be Hyperion. And especially in a situation where Hyperion has possibly a few more games under their belt, has that opportunity, it's really on 15 Kings to respond. It's how quickly do they pull off these rotates, which again, it's a little bit easier. So the faster you rotate, the faster you can get around, maybe make it through the vents over to A or something like that through the defender spawn. But Hyperion, if it's going to be a fast tempo game, 15 Kings need to read that. If Hyperion on the attacking side are wanting to up the tempo or maybe look a little shaky, in a medium pace game, 15 Kings really needs to read that and be able to apply the specific pressure. So, definitely defender sided map, definitely having that advantage. But at the same time, I'm excited for what Hyperion 5 decide to put forward here on the attacking side.
Yeah, so what I'm hearing is Hyperion 5 setting the pace, number one, and whatever pace they set, 15 Kings, they need to figure out a way to meet it. If that's a slow pace, they need to not be too awful aggressive, or at least if they are, they need to be hitting their shots. I mean, I always talk about it. I don't know if I've mentioned this one to you, but whenever we talk about like aggression, it's like a linear line. The more aggressive that you are, the better aim you have to have in order to bail yourself out of those situations. So if you're just an incredible aimer, you can afford to be incredibly aggressive, like take like tens, you know what I mean, or scream, is a good example. It's just that kind of is the way it goes. But if 50 Kings kind of have that going for them, they obviously can handle the aggression a little bit more. But yeah, no, I'm hearing, and I like what you're saying about Hyperion being able to set that pace with the attacker side, and then it's up to 15 Kings to figure out how they want to respond. Right now, we are just waiting on a couple of restarts to finish for players, so we're going to be into the game here in just a minute or so. I hope, as I think we've gotten everybody back into the lobby, and then we're just sorting out the last couple of things. But Orbital, I'm so excited for this, man. It's absolutely great, and honestly, I'm excited to be working with you again. We had a little bit of a hiatus where we haven't gotten to work together, but now we're back.
I know it's so much fun. I think you were. So I got to cast a long time ago. First person I ever got to cast was with Tanner Metro. Love the guy currently. He's in the big leagues, and shout out to Tanner Metro. If for some reason he turns in and sees my goofy face on screen, but you over there at the NACC taught me so much as well, and it's been a blast. I'm excited to be here once again, casting alongside you, which I also think which colored me wrong most likely, but I think we also cast Bind all the way back as our first map, and we've been stuck together ever since, and I'm so excited to be back with you, man.
Oh yeah, I think you're probably right. It probably wasn't mine. Oh man, but you know what I'm excited for? I'm excited for these EU teams, man, because they have such cool compositions. It's like we don't get anything fun over in NA when it comes to the compositions. So, like everybody's boring, nobody's like really committing, at least not in tier 2, over to like the Viper and stuff. But we already got a Viper and a Sage here for Hyperion 5. I love it, and we've got the Sage, or rather, sorry, not the Sage, but the Viper procced for Sora potentially as well. I assume that's going to go through. As last time these players played on this map, they did play the Astra in the sky, so the Viper would be a differentiation, but I think a welcome one.
Oh yeah, and the meta of bringing Viper back after they just actually nerfed her, I believe again, the entry poison damage I think went from 50 to 30 if I'm not mistaken. So that's a pretty significant chunk, right? You're talking about the armor values and everything like that. So it's just in the meta, but to pair it with Astra and Sky, the smoke meta, the flash meta has kind of been out. It's all about bringing in